What's up, world? This is your guy, Guitar K, and today's topic, man, is short-term gain for long-term pain. Look, man, all of us is guilty of this. Some of us made choices that we can come back from, and unfortunately, some of us has made choices that we can't. But at the end of the day, man, this type of thinking is insane. We got to get disciplined. We got to find self-control. We got to stop making these poor life choices, knowing that there's going to be some bad consequences on the back end. We got to stop this way of thinking, man. Look, and we all done it. You know you should have wore that condom. Might wouldn't end up in the free clinic. Mike got something that the free clinic can't take away. Look, man, at the end of the day, like I said, we all guilty of making these bad life choices. Short-term gain for long-term pain. And we know how it sounds. I did it again. Oh, man, here we go again. Look, in recovery, man. This is how we get trapped up in the same cycle, the same circle. You know, that proverbial hamster wheel of pain and chaos and misery. Because we want that short-term pleasure, that instant gratification. And we know that the pain is coming on the back end. You could be on probation. You could know you got to take a piss test tomorrow. But that drug looks so good. Look, man, the only way to stop thinking like this is to change your thinking, change your behaviors. We got to stop living off of feelings. We got to stop living off emotions. We got to start practicing these principles, man. I'm telling you, those 12 steps is not a stop using drugs program. This is a changing the way you think and feel program. That's why at the end of the day, them 12 steps will benefit so many other areas of life, not just using drugs. I used an example in one of my other videos the other day. Okay, you stop using drugs. So it's like a car, right? You got 4 tires on that car. So you stop using drugs. So you got 1 inflated tires, but you still got 4 other tires that you got to worry about, man. And the only way to get those other 4 tires right is to start changing the way you think, change the way you behave, start taking care of your physical health, start taking care of your mental health, get your spirituality built up, man. Look. Short-term gain for long-term pain. Look. Hear how we sound. This is how we sound. I know I'm going to have to pay for this later, but I'm going to do it anyway. Ooh, go ahead with your bad self. Look, man, I used to think like that myself, but not today. And it only comes from practicing them spiritual principles. I got some self-control today. I got some long suffering today. I got some patience. I know I got to deny myself some gratification now if I'm going to be consistent, if I'm going to show some integrity. I can't be out here chasing pleasure all the time, man. Look, everything that we do on the extreme has an extreme opposite of it. So if you always chasing pleasure, you're going to have to deal with a lot of pain on the back end of that. You better think about that. That's why the Buddhists call it serenity. That's that fine line that's in the middle of pain and pleasure. You try to walk that line. Look, we're not seeking a whole bunch of pleasure today. It's okay to just be in the middle, not always just chasing pleasure. And that's not, like I said, everything's okay in moderation. But look, man, look. If you don't have desires without boundaries, you're a slave to that. And if you're a slave to pleasure, you're going to deal with a lot of pain at the end of the day. You better think about what I'm saying, man. Look. We can be so far along in our journey, but we be willing to start all the way over just for one day, sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 1 minute of pleasure. Y'all remember that one episode of Martin, you know, the DMV episode, the one with Sherman Hemsley, yeah, George Jefferson. You know, when Martin had to start from scratch. Like I said, man, we could be so far in our journey, but we'll see that drug or that girl or that quick lick, the money, anything. We will let that one moment of instant gratification. Like I said, we know that consequences is coming. We'll be like, well, the consequences ain't going to be now. The pleasure's here right now. The consequences is later. So I'm going to do this now and deal with the consequences later. But then when that consequence come down, we know we always think back. We're like, man, I wish I never did that. Dumb. Come on, man. And like I said, the only way to shield ourselves from making these dumb mistakes is to constantly practice the spiritual principles, to constantly practice being in a state of discipline, to just happy to be content, to know we're going to have to turn down some pleasure today. And I know that sounds crazy, especially coming from an addict like me. Look, we're going to have to learn to turn down some pleasure today, man. Look, let me read something from out my NA basic text, yeah, man. This is one of the things that help you build up your spiritual principles, help you to build up some tools against doing the things that we used to do, man. Look, check this out. No, I got it highlighted because they tell us to highlight the important parts. I got so much things highlighted in this book. It's crazy. But check this out, man. It says, the eventual misery of using is not worth the temporary escape it might give us. The eventual misery. That means that you know that misery is coming. There's no escaping it. It says that is eventual. Let me read that one more time, man. It says the eventual misery of using is not worth the temporary escape that it might give. That means that you chasing a feeling that might not even be real. You might not even get that feeling that you're looking for, but you're willing to lay it all on the line for just a couple minutes of pleasure. That's that type of thinking that we can't no longer go with, man. Picture this. It's like you could be flying along in a nice new jet and everything's riding smooth. Nothing's wrong with the jet. But you see a little bit of pleasure on the ground or something that might look like it's pleasure. You're willing to push that self-eject button and let that perfectly new plane crash and burn. You have to start all the way over again, man. Like I said, I am guilty of this behavior myself. I have done this so many times, man, and had to start over and over, be caught in that same hamster wheel and be doing the same stuff over and over from the beginning, starting from scratch. Look, man, and be caught in that pain for just that little bit of instant gratification. But not today, man. Today is not worth it. I'm not chasing that pleasure no more, because I understand that when I'm chasing that pleasure, that pain is not too far behind it. You have to learn to do the same thing today. We got to learn to turn down some pleasure today, man. Learn to control your feelings and emotions. Because as long as you operating off of feelings, man, I'm telling you, you ain't operating too good. You got to learn to operate off of principles. Learn to operate off of what really matters. And like I said, man, this is not only about drugs. People will eat everything on the shelf, not caring about their health. People will spend all their money on gambling, spend the bill money, talking about, I'll worry about that later. Then wondering how they done got evicted, wondering how the gas and electric got cut off. Like I said, man, short-term gain for long-term pain. When your decisions is made on how you feel and you just driven by pleasure, look, man, you'll see something that might, like I said, it might look like it might make you feel good, and you will make a decision that will affect the rest of your life off of something that was a smoke and mirror situation, man. Look. Like I said, man, we gotta turn this around, man. I'm sorry that I'm getting so worked up about it, and it's because I have lived my life like that for so long. But it's only until I start practicing these principles, start practicing these fruits of the spirit, man. And like I said, this will affect your relationships. This will affect your jobs, your friendships. We have to learn to stop chasing feel-goods and find some balance in our life. And the only way to do that is to start giving some things back. If all you're doing is taking and taking and taking, look, man, it's like if you keep taking stuff out the bank and you go there and you try to withdraw something, it ain't nothing to withdraw. That's where all the pain come from. You're going to be in pain when you go to that bank and you need something, and something is there that you need, but you ain't got nothing to draw out, man. We got to start giving back. That's why they say it's better to give than receive. Look, man, I know it don't always feel good to give, but like I said, man, we got to stop chasing that short-term gain. And that's the only way you're going to avoid that long-term pain, man. Start practicing spiritual principles. Start working on your fruits of the spirit. Find balance in your life. Stop making bad decisions, man. Look, man, stop chasing trouble. Stop chasing what look good. They say everything that glitters ain't gold, man. And if you're my age and by now, and you haven't learned this by now, man, come on, man. It's time to get it together. I know you done had a lot of pain, and you know that this comes from a direct result of just chasing that instant gratification, man. Look, it's okay to just sit down and be without today, man. My instant gratification today comes from not chasing. It comes from being disciplined. It comes from showing some self-control, and I'm happy where I'm at today. Look, man, I ain't feeling too much pain today. I ain't feeling too much pleasure, but it's okay. Get out of that circle of chasing that short-term gain for the long-term pain. This is your guy, Guitar K. Be more